Hello, I'm Mindy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my favorite video of the year, my top 10 favorite reads that I read in 2023. My favorite reads of the year. And like I've been doing the last several years, I've divided my list into my horror favorites because that's the genre I read the most, and then the other category with all the other genres that I read, because I do read a little bit of everything. So I'm going to start with the other category. I have several different genres in this category. I have 2 thrillers, 2 fantasy, and a western. And the number 5 best read of the year is the western, Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. I read this, I started it in June of last year, and then I finished it in June for June on the Range this year. And it's a long one, but it was definitely worth finishing reading because it is so good. It's all about character work, and the challenges that the team of cattle herds have, bringing a herd of cattle from Texas all the way to Montana. Very adventurous and full of drama. And it was so good. My 4th favorite read of 2023 was The Night Swim by Megan Golden. Megan Golden has become one of my favorite thriller authors, and this is by far my favorite from her. And this is about a about a podcast host that is covering a rape trial in Florida, and then finds out another mystery along the way while she's in town. My 3rd favorite is Blade of Dream, which is Kithamar series book 2 by Daniel Abraham. I don't know what it is about this series, but I just love it so much. And I can't wait to read more from Daniel Abraham. I already have read several of the Expanse books, as well as a couple of books from another of his series, and I can't wait to read more. Hopefully I'll be reading the 3rd book in the Kithamar series, as well as The Dragon's Path. We'll see. But this is a fantasy series all set in one city, the city of Kithamar, and it explores the workings of the different areas in the city, and there is a lot of political intrigue and interesting things going on behind the scenes. My 2nd favorite is Tyranny of Faith, which is book 2 in the Empire of the Wolf series by Richard Swan. And this is kind of a mystery series, mystery fantasy. It is epic fantasy. Explore different areas of this world with a team that's in charge of justice. And the 2nd book, Tyranny of Faith, that I read this year was even better than the first, I thought. It really is starting to get very interesting. Can't wait for book 3. I'm going to be reading it really soon. And my favorite book I read in 2023 from the other category is No Exit by Taylor Adams. It has jumped to my favorite thriller of all time. and it is non-stop, fast-paced, full of dread, and does not give you a moment to breathe. It is such a great isolated setting about a woman stuck in a snowstorm in a rest stop with some strangers, and there might be something really sinister going on with one of the strangers, but who? So good. And those were my 5 favorite reads from other genres, and now it's time for the horror genre, my bread and butter. I read a lot more horror than other genres. I'm hoping to even things out a little bit more. I have an honorable mention for the horror category because I kept going back and forth on which book I was going to put as number 5, and I couldn't decide between 2. And I finally decided to put this one at honorable mention because it is a different format than the rest. It is poetry, horror poetry, and this is my new favorite collection of horror poetry. This happens to be self-published, and that is Skull Moss by Essie Martins. I love that cover, and I got a lot of inspiration from this book. I don't usually annotate my books. This one, I just couldn't help it. I have tabs, and I have highlighting of my favorite lines. This book set me on fire for writing my own poetry because of its beautiful use of figurative language. You can just see like this. I think this is my favorite lines from the whole collection. Not sure if I've read these before when I was first reviewing this book, but I'm going to read it again. I have a lot of stuff highlighted, but these were my favorite, and they inspired a poem that I wrote. And it's from the poem Splinters. I draw spirals and think of imploding, and lap at the Damocles sword hanging there like a masochist urging the blade down. These aching crevices sucking in light. I am an anti-universe pulling never in. Oh, that's amazing. I don't know. Maybe this should have been a number 5. Because that just made me remember why it's so amazing. Okay. But for number 5, I put Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wabeshig Rice, which is an apocalyptic book about a really small, isolated community of indigenous people that don't know what's going on. They're isolated from other areas, and they lose their power, and their phone, everything, all services are down, and they, luckily, some of the elders still know how to survive out in their area way up north where it's freezing cold without those kinds of luxuries. And it's how they deal with running low on food like processed or food that has been coming in from the city for them that they've been ordering, supplies, and they have a couple of strangers that come in from the city. They find out that there is really bad stuff happening outside of their little community and what they're gonna do. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. I just can't choose between those two, but yep. I'm sticking with that one being number 5. My 4th favorite horror read of 2023, I just finished in December. One of my last reads, and it was amazing. And this is a short story collection called Cry Your Way Home by Angelica Walters. Oh, Damien Angelica Walters. I forgot the third. I love that cover. It's amazing, isn't it? Wow. Some of these seem like horror stories. Some are like twisted fairy tales, but dark. Some of them have a sci-fi element, but also very dark. They're super emotional, some of them, and they're just beautiful. Beautiful and really, really creative. Really thinking outside the box and really twisting those typical horror elements. A little bit quiet, maybe a little experimental. Not super experimental like in the format or anything. Just really, really creative stories. My 3rd favorite horror read from 2023 was Blackwater by Michael McDowell. I'm putting the whole series, this is a bind up of the entire series, as my number 3. This is Southern Gothic horror about a small town that gets flooded and a mysterious woman appears in a flooded hotel and joins the people and ends up marrying one of them, and this woman has some secrets. It's right like in the swamp in the south. There's a little bit of supernatural things, but mostly it's just a really good drama character study type thing in this small town with lots of mysteries, but there are river monsters. It's such a good series. Here's the back. I love this copy. So cool. My 2nd favorite horror read of 2023 is The Terror by Dan Simmons. And this is an isolated horror. It's also historical. It follows an expedition to the Arctic. And it's about an expedition that really happened. Ship goes to explore this area and gets stuck in the ice for way too long. And they have to figure out a way to get themselves out of there. And it is about the real survival horror of starvation, running out of supplies and food, and food going bad, and not getting the nutrients they need. Oh, what's it called? Scurvy, frostbite, trying to stay warm enough in this freezing area, not enough coal or fuel, not enough anything to last so long in the ice. And there's also some supernatural things going on in like a ice monster beast out on ice, but just an epic historical tale of survival and isolation to the extreme. Like, this is a true nightmare. I can't even imagine. And then there was only one book that could top that read for my horror books, and it's also my book favorite read of the year over all categories. My book of the year is a horror book, and that is Swan Song by Robert McCammon. This is an apocalyptic book. It's like the king of apocalyptic books. It's my favorite book, maybe ever. Well, it's up there. It is often compared to The Stand by Stephen King. I like this one more. And it follows the aftermath of nuclear war that has destroyed the United States and Russia. But this all takes place in the United States. So all of our points of view are in the United States, and there's not really any way to contact anyone else anymore. But it follows several points of view, and all of the characters grabbed my attention right away. There was not a character point of view that I dreaded reading from again. They were all amazing. And Swan Song is one of the characters, and she's really important to the world that follows this nuclear attack. Again, the horror is in the war, the aftermath of the war, and just how desolate and horrible the world becomes, and how people treat each other and act after something like this happens. It's frightening. However, there are some supernatural elements in this as well, and they were ones that I really enjoyed. And in most cases, not all, but in most cases, the supernatural parts were like positive things, but not all. Oh, okay, maybe half and half. Good and bad. It was kind of this nuclear war started this intense war of good versus evil. You guys, if you have not read this book, it is worth all of the pages. It's definitely a must read. Highly recommend. And those are all my favorite reads of 2023. Have you read any of these books? What did you think of them? Love to know what your very favorite book of the year was down in the comments. And I'll be back very soon with another book related video. Thanks. Bye.